So I've got this painting mask on. This is an appropriate mask if you're doing things like sanding, painting. It's one of these 3Ms, the double filters, very heavy duty, and I recommend it. Don't go without this kind of mask if you're painting or exposing yourself to toxic fumes. Now this is an N95. This is what they're recommending now for hospital workers and people on the front lines. And what this does is it prevents particles from coming in. Not so much on the going out, but another good option. And you know, the jury's out, but if you're not touching your face a whole lot, it might provide an extra barrier against infectious disease. Now this is a surgical mask, and now my breath and my oxygen supply is much steadier, but this is not preventing particles from coming in particularly. It's mostly preventing my spittle from coming out. Even these actually have been called into question, how much they actually work even in a surgical context. You have to change them every 30 minutes or so. Overall, if this is what we're relying on to protect us from what some say is the deadliest pandemic in 100 years, then I think that we need to start to do a little bit better than that. So, my name's Charlie. I'm a U.S. Coast Guard certified captain and MoveNat certified trainer, but it's not my credentials that make me someone that I think you should listen to on this subject. It's my experience. I had a mysterious viral infection about 10 years ago that knocked me out, and I was in bed, miserable for a month. And after so many tests that were all inconclusive with respect to things like mono, my doctor finally told me, Charlie, I think sometimes I have patients who get sick for a time and then they just sort of lose the will to live. And that word, those words, lose the will to live, really struck a chord with me, and I've never been the same since. The other part of his advice was to gradually build up stamina. So if I tried to exercise, I would immediately become fatigued and it felt like I couldn't do anything. But that word gradual, kind of gradually expanding what I've come to call the safe hormetic zone. Hormetics being the study of beneficial stress and how we adapt to the right amounts of stress, the right time, in the right quantity. And this is what hormesis, the underlying principle of all pharmacology, and I would argue all fitness is really all about, that we can make gradual incremental improvements. Getting a little bit outside of our comfort zone, we can get stronger. Now, immunohormetics is the same concept but applied to the immune system and our resilience with respect to things like COVID or any other infectious disease. So whether or not you're freaking out right now, there's certainly no harm in being prepared for whatever might come our way. And if we want to remain free into the future, I'm recommending that people embrace hormetics as an alternative to the treadmill, the cycle of thinking that we can just abuse ourselves back into shape by spending an hour a day at the gym or something like that. It turns out that this concept of hormetics and the related idea of the minimum effective dose can really inform a much easier approach, and I call it physical fitness for free people. That's the name of my book. And I'm also offering, for people who sign up for my email list where I talk about these concepts, a free guide. I'm calling it the COVID Survival Guide. So it's immunohormetic approach to making ourselves more resilient with respect to things like COVID, so that we don't need to wear these masks in perpetuity and take it on the word of government officials who have been wrong just about every turn with this crisis. So I say ditch the mask and embrace a hormetic approach. Get out in the elements, get some vitamin D. And if you're a pale person like me, then do it gradually, get some morning sun, and slowly build up your solar callus. Along these same lines, I have strategies for building up resilience with respect to the cold water, open air, the cold air in the morning. Beyond that, I talk about resistance training, which is especially vital for people as they age, become more susceptible to things like falls, but also triggering these hormonal cascades that lead to overall health and well-being. So I want to invite you to sign up for my email list, get the guide, the COVID Survival Guide, and if you feel like just taking the leap all the way into reading my book, check it out. It's called Hormetics, Physical Fitness for Free People, available on Amazon and Gumroad. I'll put the links in the notes here, and hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think.